Baseball, it's always been 3 strikes, and you're out. On the night of August 20th, Ukraine decided to go one better than that. It launched a series of 4 devastating strikes, with the first 3 putting Russia out, while the 4th left it down for the count. Why? These weren't any old strikes. What Ukraine just pulled off was a very well-planned set of attacks that resulted in a night of strikes that obliterated Russia's nerve centers. We take you first to Rostov, which is one of the closest Russian blasts to the Ukraine border and has served a vital role in enabling Russia to sustain its dreadful drone and missile assaults against Ukraine's cities throughout the war. Only it wasn't a drone manufacturing plant or an airfield that was in Ukraine's crosshairs on the night of August 20th. It was oil, and Ukraine struck big. Euromaidan Press provided the basic details in an August 21st article covering all 4 of the strikes we're going to discuss in this video. In Rostov, it says Ukraine sent its drones to hit the Novoshakhtinsk oil refinery, bypassing a pair of Panzer and 1 anti-air defense systems in the process. The presence of these defenses showcases just how much Russia values the refinery Ukraine just hit. Vladimir Putin can't afford to have any more of his refineries go offline, and will explain why in a moment. So he did everything he could to protect the refinery based in Rostov. It didn't work. In the Kiev Independence report on the strike, it said that Ukraine's drones caused a fire to break out at the refinery, which lies about 6 miles away from the border between Russia and Ukraine and around 120 miles away from the Ukraine war's front lines. This was a deep strike, and it devastated the Novoshakhtinsk refinery with what residents say was an attack that caused at least 5 explosions in the facility's vicinity. The CE Independent says that it hasn't been able to independently verify this first August 20th strike. Perhaps it doesn't need to. The footage that is already being shared on social media is already providing all of the evidence that anybody needs to confirm that the strike was successful. Shared to the Euromaidan Press X account, several videos show fires blazing at the Novoshakhtinsk facility. This is no small fire either. In all 3 of the videos that Euromaidan Press shared, we see flames lighting up the horizon and smoke billowing out into the night sky, suggesting Ukraine may have managed to hit an oil storage unit with its Rostov attack. If it has, that's going to cost Russia a lot more oil. And that brings us back to our earlier comment about Putin not being able to afford to lose more of that valuable substance. Ukraine has targeted Russia's oil refineries several times during the Ukraine war. These facilities are vital cogs in the Russian military machine, as it's refineries that are responsible for converting unusable crude oil into products that can actually serve a purpose, such as fuel, lubricants, and a host of other oil products that Russia's troops need on the front lines. The supply chain here is obvious. Russia drills for crude oil and sends what it finds to its refineries. Those refineries turn that crude oil into gasoline, diesel, or whatever else Russia needs and sends it on its way. Russian trains then transport the refined oil products to Ukraine, where they're typically used to fuel tanks and armored vehicles. Ukraine is trying to take out the middle link in that supply chain, and August has become a month of burning oil for Russia. Just a day before Ukraine carried out its Rostov strike, Euromaidan Press reported that Ukraine had engaged in a 3-week drone blitz that cut Russia's oil refining capacity by about 13.5%. About 44.3 million tons of Russia's annual refining capacity had already been affected by these 3 weeks of strikes. The Novoshakhtinsk strike adds another 5 million tons of capacity to that number, meaning Russia is probably closer to losing 15% of its refining capacity. Now, we published an in-depth report on just how impactful Ukraine's strikes on Russian oil refining are. So, check out the video to learn more. But the shortened story is that fewer oil products being made means Russia's soldiers in Ukraine become weaker. You can't drive a tank or an armored vehicle without fuel after all. So, Russia's previously mechanized units are now being forced to attack Ukraine's defenses without armor, You can probably guess that's a bad idea, which is leading to more Russian casualties. Throw in a nice bonus of preventing Russia from selling refined oil products to other nations with these strikes, thus stopping Putin from raising more money to fund his war. And it's easy to see why Russia's oil has become a target. The Rostov strike is simply the latest in a series, and it shows us that the 3 weeks of hell Ukraine just put Russian oil through were just the beginning. That was strike 1. The Russians at Bayat were already getting nervous about what August 20th still held in store for them. For strike 2, we head to a base of the main directorate of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, better known as GRU, and the key Crimean port town of Sevastopol. Again, Ramadan Press provides the basic details, stating that Ukraine's drones struck a facility referred to as the Black Sea Fleet Military Unit number 95408. The Exilanova Plus Telegram channel says that Russian GRU members are stationed at that facility, making it obvious why the base became a Ukrainian target. The Kiev Post provides some more information, stating that Ukraine's daring raid saw it send between 10 and 15 unmanned aerial vehicles or UAVs to storm the GU compound, per local news reports. The same outlet says that air defense units were reported as firing in the vicinity of the strike, and at least 2 heavy ground explosions occurred. Russia, as is so often the case, tried to downplay the incident. Mika Razv, who Russia has appointed to oversee occupied Crimea, would only confirm that some loud sounds were heard in the vicinity of the GRU base, and that the emergency responders were heading to the scene. He didn't say what had caused those loud sounds, however, he also didn't need to. Why? Because just as with Rostov, there's footage that shows us that Ukraine hits its mark again. This time shared by the XL Nova Plus Telegram channel, a series of 3 videos confirms that there was a large fire on the ground around, or more likely, at the GRU base. Those videos, which all appear to have been shot by Sevastopol residents, are similar to the footage shot of the Rostov oil refinery, in that they show a massive fire recorded from a distance. These aren't the types of fires that result from Ukrainian drones getting shot down by Russian air defenses. They're the sorts of fires that only happen when Ukraine hits a big target. Press adds that the NASA firm's satellite service, which tracks fires across the globe, has confirmed that there is a fire at the GU base. Now, it's clear why Ukraine wants to hit Russian oil refining. We explained the reasons before, but why would it use some of its valuable long-range drones to take out a GRU headquarters? Part of the reason comes down to location. Sevastopol is in Crimea, which Russia has been occupying since its illegal annexation of the territory in 2014. Every time Ukraine hits a target in Crimea, it's sending a message to Putin that it refuses to accept this annexation will ever lead to Russia formally taking control of the Crimean Peninsula. Ukraine wants Crimea back, and it's going to use its drones to make that happen. The GRU base is just another on a long list of Crimean targets that Ukraine has taken out with its drones. But more specifically related to the GRU itself, Ukraine hits the base because Russia's GRU is a menace. Essentially, a spy organization, GRU is responsible for causing havoc in both Ukraine and the wider European continent. The Security Distillery highlighted this in a September 2021 article, noting that the GU operates one of the most dangerous hacking groups in the world. Often those groups turn their attention to Western enemies, as was the case with the SolarWinds hack that saw Russia break into several US government and business networks. But for Ukraine, a powerful hacking force can cause severe problems for the modern and often worked weapons it's using to defend itself against Russia. Add government systems and infrastructure into the mix, and the GU's hackers are a threat that needs to be taken out. Ukraine didn't achieve that goal in Sevastopol, but it may have just taken out a commander or two who directed those hacking efforts. The strategist notes that the GRU is dangerous in more ways than just hacking. In November 2024, it wrote, "The head of MI5 warned in October that agents of Russia's military intelligence agency, the GRU, had conducted arson attacks, sabotage, and other dangerous actions with increasing recklessness. His MI6 counterpart said, Russian intelligence services had gone a bit feral. These sorts of attacks aren't limited to Ukraine, the strategist points out. Arson attacks in Poland, Germany, the Czech Republic, and the Baltic states have all been linked to the GRU. So was the disruption to the French rail system during the first day of the Paris Olympics. This is an organization that uses subterfuge and dirty tactics to get what Putin wants.